there, it's Tracy and it's Art Books for Creativity, back again this week with another art book. This time I'm only going to be talking about one art book. I don't have like a grouping today. And this book is one that I actually had to find it a second time because I had gotten rid of it some years ago and remembered, I wish I hadn't done that. And so I found it again. And it's one of my favorite books, and it is called, hold it up here, Finding Your Visual Voice, written by Dakota Mitchell with Lee Haroun, or Haroun. It's a painter's guide to developing an artistic style. And in this book, I think there's 60 or maybe 90 artists that are featured in this book. Not all of them get like an individual page, but they do talk with a bunch of different individual artists about how they develop their style, how they set up a painting. They do have some demonstrations in here. But what I really love about this book, and first of all, I'll tell you, is the contents section of the book. So chapter 1, discover your sources of inspiration. A first step in discovering your visual voice is identifying your sources of inspiration. Where do your ideas about what and how to paint come from? Chapter number 2, discover your subject matter. No subject is better than any other. The important thing is to have a passion for and a desire to paint the subjects that you choose. Chapter 3, discover your art elements. Artists use the art elements to give expression and form to their visual voice. Emphasize those that most effectively convey your message. Number 4, discover your composition style. Composition is what pulls everything together into a unified whole. It is an essential part of expressing your visual voice. And chapter 5, discover your painting process. The painting process is all that you do to produce a piece. There are countless ways to work and techniques available to communicate your artistic message. So in this book, she's got a wonderful introduction. She writes it very, very well. She is an artist, although she spent a number of years not doing art, but came to it later in life. I think for a lot of artists, especially in this day and age, given social media and the internet, is, we're always having other images like pushed in front of our faces, and we look at everybody else's work, and then we think, well, what do I like? What am I about? And sometimes it just takes some time and some exploration and experimentation to figure out what you want to paint and what you're good at. Because I am not a good florals painter, for example, and I really don't enjoy still lifes. That's not where my passion is, nor do I do people portraits. My passion is painting animals and abstractions, and I'm just now getting back into landscapes, which I hadn't done for a very long time, but I'm sort of re-engaging with that subject matter. And that is kind of where I discover my source of inspiration. And I think a lot of people, especially if they come to art later in their life, they're like, what am I really interested in? What really gets me excited? What do I feel passionate about? And every chapter in this book really kind of goes through that. So just to give you an example, in chapter number 1, which is called Discover Your Sources of Inspiration. Well, art is your source of inspiration, an external source of inspiration. That means, do you like to look at an object? Do you like to look at the landscape? Do you like looking at people or maybe a street with beautiful buildings? If that's what inspires you, that is an external source, and you'll use that for the painting subject matter. Is your source internal? Is it internalized? Is it intuitive? Is it something that you want to express that's just coming from your feelings and from your gut level? There's also that type of art and that type of source. Your interpretation of both of those, it's wildly different. You can be a realism painter and paint exactly how you see it in the colors that need to be seen, or maybe you want to reinterpret that and put your own spin on the landscape and do it in brighter colors or different type of style. The other thing that she really goes over is mediums. So once you get everything distilled down from discovering what your subject matter is to discovering, what it is about color, about the different mediums. Once we get into the mediums, that's where it gets kind of interesting, because each artist in this book that has been featured is working in several different mediums, from pastel to watercolor, acrylics to oil. And it's great to see all these different mediums and how these artists interpret, and how wildly different each of them actually is with the kind of work that they do. And then there's some very good demonstration pages in here. Here's an artist who shows how he paints a chicken and how he starts that chicken. And then on this next page shows more detail in the final work. Very simple, but also, has that his name is Leon Zen, and he is a Chinese artist that moved to America. This book was published in 2007, and it is a Northlight book. Again, Northlight always doing such great books. Now, every chapter actually has exercises. So you'll read the entire chapter. You will see an interview with an artist. There's Liz Kenyon, for example. Once you get to that part of each chapter, then you'll turn the page and there'll be a section called Review and Reflect. So just to give you an example on this particular Review and Reflect, they ask for questions. Number 1, for each painting, is the feeling more loose or controlled? 2, for each painting, what types of edges does the artist use? 3, what effects do you see created by the artists with their choices of level of control, types of edges, and paint application techniques? Then they ask for you to check a box of the ones that appeal to you the most. And then when you turn the page, you find out who the artists are and answers to those questions, followed by a section where you can write down your own thoughts and take down notes, and then followed by exercises for you to do in your own studio. And for example, for this chapter, exercise 1, have you developed ways to prepare yourself to paint? How motivating are they? Review the different methods suggested by the artists on page 133. Exercise 2, vary your approach. Exercise 3, how do you move? Exercise 4, how do you hold your brushes? Exercise 5, thin or thick layers. And exercise 6, the effect of edges. So they give kind of an explanation of each of those questions and gives you some food for thought, and also to just get out your paints and decide how you're going to do that. Now, at the end of the book, there is a thing back here called the self-assessment summary. I was really glad when I found this book that the previous person who had the book did not fill all this in, because maybe this gives me a chance now to fill this in since it's blank. But you'll read every chapter and you'll look at the art, and then you'll have the activities, and then you'll come back, and it's a self-assessment summary. So chapter 1 is your sources of inspiration. You'll kind of decide, okay, am I externally motivated or internally motivated? In subject matter, is it landscapes or non-objective abstraction, still lifes or figuratives that really gets you going? And also, do you want to paint more on the realism spectrum all the way to the abstract spectrum? In art elements, what's going to influence you there? Is it line, shape, color, value, or texture? Composition style. This one's probably one of the longest in the painting process. Composition style, I prefer using traditional formats, rectangular or square shape. I prefer traditional formats, but would like to experiment on occasion with unconventional shapes and arrangements and or unusual dimensions. Or number 3, I prefer unconventional formats to traditional ones. And then other things that you might tell you what your format is do you like to paint things that are straight on or eye level? The worm's eye view, a bird's eye view, a close-up, from a middle distance, from afar, altered, uncommon, and or greatly distorted. Describe your thoughts about how you want to handle that, and then envision yourself using this most often to establish a rhythm, a visual balance, and a unity or variety, highly unified to greatly varied. And then the last chapter, the painting process, what mediums do you currently paint with or would you like to try? Which activities or processes do you want to try as you prepare yourself to start painting? One of the things that chapter goes over is, do you like to do meditation or visualization? Do you like to listen to music? Do you like to go to a room that is strictly dedicated just to painting? Do you set up a schedule? And do you start your day painting warm-ups? Or do you just get right into it? And then painting as far as approaches, are you painting from a resource material such as photo or reference books? Painting while actually viewing the subject? Painting from memory, painting from imagination? Doing preliminary studies, sketching directly onto the painting surface. That gives you some food for thought and how you want to answer that. And where are you on the body movement continuum while you're painting? Are you very controlled, somewhat loose, or very loose? And it just keeps going. And I think this is actually really good because sometimes maybe we don't internalize or think real deeply on what is actually inspiring us to paint and then what we're trying to get across to the viewer with our paintings, right? And then this last part says where to go from here. Finding your visual voice takes commitment, time, and work. As with other worthwhile efforts, it's helpful to put together a plan of action. Although the suggestions here are divided into groups, they are not intended to be in sequential steps. They actually work hand in hand. For example, listening to and respecting your internal voice are continual lifetime goals, and learning requires taking action. So as you read through this section, consider how the suggestions might interconnect, then develop a plan that leads you where you feel you can go as an artist. So I think, out of a lot of the books that I have and have shown or shared with other friends of mine throughout the years, this one's been one of my friends' favorites when they didn't even really know a lot about this book. Finding Your Visual Voice, A Painter's Guide to Developing an Artistic Style, written by Dakota Mitchell with the help of Haroun. And what I like about it too is it is a spiral bound book. So that makes it nice and easy to lay those pages out nice and flat. You don't have to worry about the book wanting to constantly close, where then you gotta put a weight on it to keep it open so you can look at it while you're working. So this is a great one. Again, I think I got this one off Thrift Books. I always recommend maybe trying them first before going to Amazon. And then I will be gone for 2 weeks approximately, so I won't have a video for the next 2 weeks. And when I get back, I will have something else to go over, which will be a grouping of books or maybe just another single book. This is a great one, Finding Your Visual Voice. Thanks for joining me today and have a great weekend.